Dominic, my name's Rob. It's great to speak to you, but I don't want to make you homesick. Guess where I am?
Where are you?
I'm about 5 miles from Tunbridge Wells.
No, you're not. Really?
Yeah, I can't obviously can't tell you exactly where I am because there'll be millions of people banging at my door.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. No, you don't want that.
Yeah, and in fact, I went down to the Neville ground. I'm sure you know it, the Tunbridge Wells Cricket Club, because my son plays cricket. We went down and we had a game there the other day. And we're on lockdown and everything, but oh my God, it was beautiful. The weather's been amazing, just to make you feel, just to give you a little bit of home.
I know. Yeah, I miss it. What's been good though, which try and take sort of the little pieces of light in such a dark situation. Is things like this, like systems like Zoom and being able to talk to my family and my friends in sort of conference call style meetings. We do a quiz, and I'm doing a quiz with them right after this. Then we do it once.
Brilliant.
It's actually been sort of really nice. Something I think that we want to keep up. Whilst I'm away and stuff. That's actually been sort of quite pleasant. But yeah, Tunbridge Wells, small world, huh?
Very small world. Well, how long have you been away for? How long have you been away from England?
So it's been just over a year now that I've been away. Obviously the plan was to come back so we have finished shooting the show that I'm working on. We finished in March. I think we finished mid-March.
You got funded it. You didn't get closed down. You actually finished it, yeah?
Yeah, no, we finished it all sort of about a month before everything went a bit to the fan. So we were done, but then obviously I was around for the last little bits of whatever needed to be done and press and this, that, and the other for filming, and then the lockdown happened. So I've been here, but the reality is, as hard as it is for everyone, this is what you've got to do to keep everyone safe, and that's what's most important.
What is lockdown in LA like? It's been pretty strict here in Kent. What's it like in LA?
Yeah, it's sort of worryingly less strict here, which is a bit of a concern, and I'm sort of finding myself more adhering to the British guidelines than I am the American guidelines, because some of the advice that's been given by, let's call them some of the higher ups, has been just absolute lunacy. So as much as I can, I'm just keeping to myself. I've got the pets here, which is a real saving grace. I've never seen a dog get bored of fetch before the owner, but that's what I got to do at the moment, But yeah, it's tricky. It's a tricky time where, you're being told that you're not allowed to go out. Even if necessarily you weren't planning on doing anything or whatever, the lack of ability to do something is understandably very frustrating. But I think the key thing to remember, and what I keep reminding myself of, is, the simple things like wearing a mask, making sure your hygiene with washing your hands and things like that is constantly being taken care of and up to date. It's not protecting me personally. It's protecting anyone that I might bump into on the street. It's protecting the people that I see when I'm at a store. It's protecting my mum, my dad, my friends, my grandparents. It's protecting all of them. I think that's what people really need to remember, and I have conversations with people very rarely, because I don't want to be, preaching and telling people what to do. But I have had a conversation with someone who, is wearing their mask, but with their nose exposed, and you sort of, because the information can be a little tricky to get through. And my brother's not a medical doctor, but he's a doctor, very, very intelligent and very clued into everything that's going on. So I talk to him and I talk to my family about it a lot. And wearing a mask like that first of all, wearing a mask isn't really protecting you. I mean, from what I've read, because anything that could get into your mouth or into your nose could potentially get into your eyes as well. The idea with the populace wearing a mask, again, just sort of from what I've read, and I could be wrong about this, but it's that you're not transferring anything that's infectious to everyone else, which is what keeps a group safe. So, if one person isn't adhering to that rule, then that's an issue that could spread to be much larger. So, as much as we can, as much as it's irritating and cumbersome to wear a mask and to be constantly washing your hands and being safe and whatever, it's what needs to be done to keep keep everybody safe. And I think, you know, the important thing really to remember is, you know, talking about like the NHS and the healthcare workers who are working so tirelessly to keep people not just safe, but, you know, alive, like really trying to keep people alive. You know, if we have to wear a mask for an hour when we go to the store or when we go to Sainsbury's or whatever, these people are wearing them for 16 hours a day, you know, and working non-stop just to make sure that the world is safe. So I think that's a real sort of thing for people to remember, that it is very grounding to be like, oh, it's a little irritating to wear a mask for, you know, 20 minutes or so, but people are wearing the full like PPE for hours and hours and hours, self-sacrificially to keep people safe. And I think that's what's so important.
How much did your life change going from Tunbridge Wells to Style and Taylor Swift? I mean, that's one heck of a jump, my friend.
It sure was. Yeah, that was funny actually, because I just finished a little film in Wales. And I'd met Taylor like a while ago, and not, you know, just sort of hung out a couple of times, but nothing too crazy. And I was living with my friend Daryl at the time, who at the time he was working in a bookies. It was in a William Hill. And I don't know what I was doing in the flat. I was doing something, just a little flat right next to the station. And he goes, "Oh, Dom, you got a text?" And I'm like, okay. He said, "Why are you telling me?" Like, that's a weird thing. He goes, "Well, it's from Taylor Swift." And I go, "Okay, I should probably answer that one." I'll look into it. And it was so lovely. She messaged me and said, "Would you ever consider being in a music video?" And I said, "Well, you know, it depends who it's for. It depends like what the subject matter is and whatever." And she goes, "Well, it's for me." And I had a huge crush on her at the time, and I was like, "I'll do it. It doesn't matter. I'll do it. Get me out there. I'll do it for sure." And it, you know, it was a lot of the way my career has gone is thanks to her, and thanks to her putting me in it. Because, like you say, there was a wider plethora of people who were sort of aware that I guess I existed, and then that moved on to the TV show, which has moved on to the show I'm on now. So, you know, some might say I owe her everything.
Good old Taylor, that's what I say.
Yeah, exactly.
We've been Netflixing it all day with my two daughters.
Yeah.
We've been jacing it all morning. I mean, how does a series like that, what was it? Was it 4 series? It must sort of take over your life in some way.
Yeah, I mean, a show like that, especially because it was so martial arts heavy, and from the beginning, you know, I'm not a Tom Cruise by any matter or means, but as much as I can do, I want to be able to at least push myself to prove to myself that it's something that I can do. So, you know, from the beginning, we were filming for 4 years, yeah, and the first season took, I think, 8 months to film, and season 2 and season 3 took like 10 months to film, with a month of training ahead of time. And then in between that, whilst you're filming, you train in the martial arts that we need to train in. So yeah, I'd be sort of training 3 or 4 times a week in martial arts, and then whatever stunt training I needed to do, and then the choreography that I needed to do, and then you sort of, you know, very often we'd get to work at like 6 a.m. and train for an hour, then go to hair and makeup and film for the day, and then go to the gym afterwards. But, you know, as sort of physically taxing as it was, because I just adore what I do. I think it's so much fun. It never really sort of gets to you in that way. I enjoy it. It's really good fun. So, and I'm under no illusions of how lucky I am to be in this situation, because there are so many actors who, you know, let's face it, are better looking and probably more talented, who didn't get those opportunities. And I was lucky enough to get them. So, you know, it just always as appreciative as possible. And I guess the only way I can really respond that is to, 1, try and do a good job, and 2, work as hard as I can.
How does it work? I mean, I've got an agent, and mm-hmm. she rings me and says, "Oh, there's this, there's that." I mean, I guess it's key in your business that you have to sort of strike while you're hot, don't you? Where your name's pretty up there, because it is a daunting business. You don't know where your next meal's coming from at times, do you?
Very much so. And I've spent a lot of my career in that situation, if I'm being sort of completely honest. You know, I think the assumption is, you know, you do like a film or whatever, and that's kind of it. You've made it. And I think what people maybe sometimes forget is that, first of all, when you're starting off, financially, they're not necessarily as lucrative as you would think. And also, you know, you really did have to grind to sort of get yourself to a position where you're in like a show like Shadowhunters or a movie like Vampire Academy. I really had to work quite hard to get myself to a place where I was ready to do something like that. And it's an interesting concept, because when Shadowhunters finished, it was you know, a pretty successful show, and we were very happy with it, and you know, people seemed to enjoy it from all over the world, which was really incredible. And like you say, it is important to really jump on something sort of immediately afterwards. The concept that I had, and it was a big conversation, like you say, with my agents and my team, is that I didn't want to do something of the same sort of genre again. Because, you know, a big part of why I enjoy doing this is because you do get the ability to go and be someone different every day. You get to go and do something a little like strange or wonderful. So the idea was to go and do something very different. You know, nothing necessarily in any genre or whatever, just a challenge that I hadn't done before. And, you know, scripts kept coming in, and there were a couple, this would be great, I'd love this one, blah, blah, blah. And then they didn't pan out, or, you know, they hired someone else who was better or more appropriate for the role. And then Penny Dreadful hit my desk. And I knew of Penny Dreadful from the previous series that they did, but the big attracting factor to me was John Logan, who wrote it, I mean, you know, I'm a British guy actor. Like, John Logan wrote the last 2 James Bonds. I want to be James Bond at some point. Like, that's what I want to do at some point in my career. So that was a huge attractive factor.
Here first.
That's right. Yeah. And then, you know, the more the cast evolved with Nathan Lane and Natalie Dormer, and you know, the more research I did about John. He wrote Gladiator, and he wrote The Aviator, and all of these incredible productions that I've admired since I started in this business. The key phrase that kept coming up around projects like this is no-brainers. So if there was a project that I was like, oh, I'm not sure, you know, it's vampires again, or, you know, it's a similar character that I've played before, or whatever. And Penny Dreadful came in, and all of us, you know, there's a team of 9 people. And we all just said, this is a no-brainer. This is a brilliant show for a brilliant network with an amazing cast. It's a character that you've not played before, which is actually not aired, I don't think, in the UK yet. So I don't want to give too much away.
Sure.
But he's a bad guy. He's in his bones, he's a bad guy. And it was, you know, a really interesting thing to, you know, after sort of playing the quote unquote hero for so long, to play a real villain was interesting, and it's been a real challenge. So that was the key thing with sort of jumping on it, was you really do want to make sure you're striking while the iron's hot, as you said, but also at the same time make sure you make the right choices, not just career wise, but for me, that would make me happy and keep me sort of fulfilled in what I'm doing.
Is it a two-way street? Are you able to go to approach people to even through your agent, say, look, I'd love to be involved in this, or is it very much they come to you?
I think I'm still at the lower level of my career where that's not really something that we would do. I mean, I know that there've been like productions that have surfaced that I'm really interested in, and I've spoken to my agents and said, hey, I really love this one. Is there any way I can get an audition? Can I come in and meet the guys and see, you know, if I'd be appropriate for it? But 9 times out of 10, they're all so good at their jobs, my agents, that if I'm right for it, I get that audition anyway. Even if it's, you know, if it's in England, the one I have to do today is, well, obviously nobody's having face-to-face auditions at the moment anyway. But what you do is you tape it here. I've got a little sort of studio set up, and you tape it here as if it was an audition. You send it off to the people, and hopefully they like it. That's actually what I did for Penny Dreadful, is I sent off a tape to them, and they liked it, and then brought me in, and I met them, and, you know, the rest is history. But I know, obviously, you know, when you reach sort of the levels of Robert Downey Jr. or the biggest actors in the world, if you want to do something and you call them, then I'm sure they would be elated to have you involved. I'm still very much in a stage of my career where I have to prove myself as appropriate for that role. And there's a part of that I really like. You know, it's a real like challenge every time I get an audition, that I have to mold this person and create the idea of this character, and do not just a good job, but a better job than the 1,000 other guys who are going for that role. So I like that. It's another part of why I really enjoy what I do. And it was, don't get me wrong, it was hard work at the beginning, you know, getting no's and not really understanding why you got to know. Was I not good enough? Was I too tall? Was I too short? Was I too old? Was I too young? You never really know. And you know, the most frustrating one is where you see it on screen, whatever it is, and you go, I did that. That's exactly what I did. Why didn't I get that one? That doesn't make any sense. But,
hey, welcome to my world.
You're right, exactly. Yeah, you know, that's what I did. It's exactly the same. You know, what can you do? And like I say, that it was hard at the beginning, but now I sort of see it as, you know, my little hurdles every day to get over, you know, my little sort of personal challenges, which I really enjoy.
Brilliant. Listen, I won't keep you. Just tell me, if it wasn't a lockdown LA day,
mm-hmm.
It's bank holiday here, what would you do? What would you, did you get up and go for breakfast? Do you have a lie-in? What would a normal, do you go out for a night out? Do you have a local, or do
I have a stomping ground? I do. There, you know what I love here, and I found a couple, and I go to them all the time. There are a couple really good British style pubs. You know, and a big hurdle that I have here is homesickness. I really struggle with it when I'm here, because I'm just so far away from everyone. You know, the lack of ability to just get a hug from my mum when I need it, you know, is tough. So the British pubs really do, they make me feel a little more at home. It's a beautiful day here today, so I don't know, maybe get to the beach, do a little surfing, which is something I had to learn recently. I thought it would be really easy, and it's really not. It's really hard work, surfing. I thought it was going to be, it's just a board on water and that's it. And it's not at all. It's really, really difficult. Yes, I mean, I love, there's a pub called the Village Idiot here, which is like very British based, with British food and British beer. And, you know, you can go get a Guinness or a Boddington's, and you're like, it's like home. I love it. That's great. And stuff like that. The other thing is just staying active. And I've tried to do as much of this as possible whilst in the confines of my house, but, you know, seeing your buddies and just being as social as possible. I'm very, very social as a person. So, anything I can do with kind of my friends or the people I'm close with is key for me.
Hey, do you know what?
Tell me.
Thanks a lot.
Oh, mate, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I do just want to take this time briefly to thank all of the men and women of the NHS and the emergency services, and the essential workers who've been, you know, really putting themselves at risk for the benefit of the people around you. It's an incredible thing, and you're beyond heroes in my eyes. So thank you so much for everything that you do. And thank you for having me, Rob. It's been a pleasure. And
the great thing, I'll always be able to say, do you know what? See that James Bond, that guy there, he told me that first.
That's right, yeah.
20th of 2020. Hey, Dominic, take care of yourself. Thanks a lot.
You as well, my friend. Stay safe. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.